violence, brutality, torture, cruelty, death. Tragically, for many Indigenous Australian people, these are more than just words. They're a lived experience, often at the hands of agents of the law. For other people, these words elicit distinct discomfort because the mass public gloss over issues of state violence so that they can pretend that they didn't know. Since the Royal Commission into Aboriginal Deaths in Custody, almost 30 years ago, there have been over 400 Indigenous deaths in custody, and 28% of the Australian prison population is Indigenous. This is a humanitarian crisis that deserves far greater attention, investigation, and most importantly, action than it's currently receiving. My research asks, to what extent do unequal relations of power within the criminal justice system contribute to the forms of violence experienced by Indigenous Australian people in the criminal justice system? It looks outside of the box on Indigenous incarceration by viewing it through a necropolitical lens. A necro what, I hear you ask? Well, necropolitics is where the government or government institutions decide who matters and who doesn't, who is disposable and who isn't. Analysis is still underway, but the early indications are that Indigenous Australian people are being subjected to forms of violence that are systematically legitimised by a system that is necropolitical at every stage. In other words, Indigenous people can be scooped up, locked up, killed and forgotten about by the justice system because the justice system has decided that they are disposable, that they don't matter. I'm often asked, why do you care so much about this? You're not Indigenous. Hell, you're not even Australian. You don't have to be Indigenous to stand up for Indigenous rights. And I truly believe in the statement by Martin Luther King Jr. that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. No person should fear being indiscriminately arrested due to the colour of their skin, let alone dying for it. So yes, I care deeply about this subject, and if you didn't before, I hope you do too. Because ultimately, Black lives matter. Indigenous Australian lives matter. Thank you.